We did what we did because we wanted to see Epstein go to jail. He needed to go to jail.
Today, Labor Secretary Alex Acosta, former U.S. attorney in Florida, says accused sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein wouldn't have served any time in jail over a decade ago if his office hadn't stepped in.
Simply put, the Palm Beach State Attorney's Office was ready to let Epstein walk free. No jail time, nothing.
Because of a deal struck in 2008, Epstein pleaded guilty to state charges, including soliciting prostitution from a minor in exchange for avoiding federal prosecution. He was sentenced to 13 months, forced to register as a sex offender and make financial restitution with victims, what some critics have called the deal of the century. In that agreement, the U.S. attorney makes it clear that his office and the FBI were investigating much more serious federal charges, including the ones Epstein has pleaded not guilty to this week in New York: sex trafficking and conspiracy. But Acosta says given the evidence they had at the time in Florida, going to court would have been, in his words, a roll of the dice.
One of the tough questions in these cases: what is the value of a secured guilty plea with registration versus rolling the dice?
The Labor Secretary also argued that today's juries and judges are more sympathetic to sexual assault victims.
Today's world does not allow some of the victim shaming that could have taken place at trial 12 years ago.
Lester, late today, the former Florida state attorney issued a statement saying that Acosta's recollection of the matter is, quote, completely wrong, and that if Acosta was that concerned about the case, then he should have proceeded with federal charges.
All right, Stephanie, thank you. Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here, and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.